tuning in. My name is Johann Maree. I'm your host for tonight. Let us have a look at today's headlines. Good evening. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Johann Maree. Today we have in studio with us Anna Vambe, the GIZ Project Manager for Startup Namibia. She will talk to us about the grant that they're rolling out for startups. Thank you for joining us, Anna.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
So Anna, please tell me a little bit about this grant. What is the background to it? What initiated it?
What initiated it? Yes. Startup Namibia works with startups and small growing businesses. So basically we work with anyone who has an idea and wants to start a business or has already started it and wants to grow their business. And we've realized that obviously with the lockdown and the state of emergency, the effect on especially young business is really, really harsh. For some, their revenues have dropped to zero within a matter of a couple of hours, because when the lockdown was announced or when the first measures were announced, they really didn't have a lot of time to prepare. Mm-hmm. So what we are really worried about is that if we don't do anything or if we do nothing, by the time we get out of this, which might be towards the end of this year or even later, us as Startup Namibia, we won't have any startups left to work with. Mm-hmm. So as the German Development Corporation, we obviously also look very closely what the German government is doing in Germany to support startups and small businesses. And we have looked at a couple of their programs in terms of cash transfers and so on. And we put it all together and came up with this program.
So Anna, can you please just tell me what are the requirements? How do you become eligible for this project? And please, before you start that, please define startups.
Yes. How do we define a startup? So for the purpose of this grant, we define a startup as a business who has registered not later than 5 years ago. So in case you're a business and you are as young and alive and kicking as 5 years and not older than that, that's one of the qualifications that you need to fulfill in order to be eligible for the grant. And this is how we define startups for this grant. Mm-hmm. In our program, in our project, when we work with startups, we look at a couple of more criteria. So we look at your degree of innovation. Are you doing something a little bit different? Are you disrupting the industry or the sector that you're working in some way, shape or form? Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be big, but you definitely shouldn't be doing a copy and paste of let's say, what your neighbor is doing. Mm-hmm. The second thing that we look at is, what's your growth plan? Do you want to grow fast and exponentially? Mm-hmm. And the third thing that we're looking at is your business model, your service or your product scalable to other markets outside of Namibia? So when we work with you, we want to see that whatever you're doing, we can scale it quite quickly to the region, because as we all know, the domestic market in Namibia might not be big enough for you to scale or to grow fast and quickly.
Mm-hmm. Can you please tell me, how much is in the kitty and how much are you giving per startup?
Yeah. Just before I go to that, I just want to reiterate, for the grant, we will not look at those criteria in terms of innovation. Are you scaling to other markets outside of Namibia? For this grant, as long as you're not older than 5 years as a business, mm-hmm. you tick the box for us as a startup.
Mm-hmm. And you must be registered with the Social Security?
Yes. The other eligibility criteria are, so you must not be older than 5 years. You must scan and upload your founding statement, mm-hmm. either from the Ministry of Trade or BIPA. You need to present your SME certificate. You need to present your Social Security registration, and you need to fill out a couple of questions that would allow us to evaluate your business continuity plan and how you're planning to get through the crisis. One thing that I forgot, also very important, you also need to submit your business bank statements for January, February, March, and April. So 4 months of bank statements, because we want to check if you really had a decline in revenue in March because of COVID-19. What we want to avoid is that businesses that have been dormant for some time now just use the opportunity to get too cheap money.
So I was asking how much is in the kitty, how much is in this, the big picture, and how much are you giving per grant?
So the entire pot this time is $3 million NAM dollars, and we're giving out 15,000 NAM dollars per business. So that amounts to 200 grants in total.
When is it opening? When is the door opening for applications?
We opened last week Wednesday already.
And how's the response been?
Hectic. Our email boxes are blowing up, our phones are blowing up, and I just checked with our IT colleagues yesterday. So far, more than 500 applications started and 100 were completed. So we've got 100 completed applications already, but there's more than 500 that are still open. We think that those are the businesses that are still finalizing and gathering all the documents, and they will definitely submit by the deadline that is May 8th. Startups out there, May 8th. This is Friday this week until midnight. You can still submit your application. It's very important to mention the application is completely online. So wherever you are in Namibia, Katima, Rundu, Keetmans, Luderitz, the coast, please go to www.startupnam.org and you will find all the information how to apply for the grant.
Now, just before we conclude this, there's obviously the issue of non-formalized businesses, the informal sectors, who's also really been severely impacted by COVID-19. Are you considering them, or are you considering them in the long run after this?
Yes. We are absolutely aware that the $3 million NAM dollars that we have for this grant right now, it's not going to be enough. And with the criteria that we set, we are aware that we are excluding businesses, especially in the informal sector. However, we want to show businesses that it does pay off to formalize. A lot of times businesses that are already running, they shy away from registering because, the tax issue and so on and so forth. But we really want to show the businesses out there that formalizing also pays off. Unfortunately, we are not open to informal businesses at the moment because we wanted to do something that helps the businesses quickly. We didn't want to wait 3, 4, 5 months until the money is out. They need the money now. People need to put food on their tables. They need to pay rent. They need to pay their employees. We want to save jobs. So we wanted to come up with an application procedure that is quick, but we can still filter out the ones who are not serious or who don't deserve it. So we needed to balance the criteria against the group that we want to reach. However, one thing that we also have in the pipeline is we call it the COVID-19 Startup Equipment Grant. So it's an equipment grant for protective gear, so masks and hygiene.
To produce these?
No. We will procure them and we will give them out in packs to startups and small businesses to allow them to continue business activity under the regulations of the state of emergency. Because as we all know, we open up again, but we strictly need to adhere to we need to wear masks. Businesses need to offer hand sanitizer, they need to disinfect, and so on and so forth. And we also know that for a lot of our small startups and also in the informal sector, it's difficult to buy disinfectant and hand sanitizers and so on and so forth. So that's another program that we're working on. So it definitely pays off to follow us a little bit. Check out our social media channels, Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for our newsletter on the website because all our programs are announced there. And we do have a couple of other things that we're working on, especially also for informal businesses.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you so much for the information. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please come back later. This afternoon, a child pornography bomb has exploded at the Windhoek Magistrate Court after a pedophile made his first court appearance in the Windhoek Magistrate on 40 counts of rape, indecent assault of minors, child trafficking, etc., etc. Some of the parents were very angry who attended this. Please have a look at the video. Thank you for watching our evening review show. Please come back next time.